Jaren pushed his mop across the cold metal floor of the space station. The lights flickered above, casting long shadows on the walls. Dust and debris covered every corner. No one had come here for decades. The station was old, forgotten, and full of secrets. Jaren was a human janitor, small and quiet, but he liked the work. Cleaning gave him time to think, and the station had more mysteries than he could imagine. He hummed a small tune as he worked, the echo of his voice bouncing off the empty corridors. Most of the time he felt invisible. Aliens and humans alike ignored janitors. That was fine with him. He liked doing his work without attention. But today something felt different. As he passed an old maintenance shaft, he noticed a faint glow coming from a crack in the wall. It pulsed softly like it was alive. Curiosity stirred in him. Jaren wiped his hands on his uniform and knelt to look closer. The glow came from a hidden chamber, sealed for hundreds of years. The metal walls around the crack were scratched and old, but someone, or something, had opened it slightly. He could see a shimmering light inside. Jaren's heart beat faster. He had read stories about forgotten rooms and ancient treasures, but he had never imagined he would find one. He pushed the metal flap gently and it gave way with a soft click. The glow spilled into the dark corridor, brighter and warmer than any light he had seen on the station. Inside, the chamber was small but filled with objects that made Jaren stop. Ancient weapons floated on invisible supports. They were strange, unlike anything he had seen before. Some had long, curved blades that seemed to hum with energy. Others had spheres that glowed from inside, pulsing slowly like they were breathing. And in the center of it all was a sword, unlike the others. It floated in midair, glowing brighter than anything else. Its blade was sleek and silver, and a soft blue light ran along its edge. Jaren felt a strange pull toward it. He had no reason to touch it, and yet he could not stop himself. It called to him quietly like it knew him. His fingers brushed the hilt. The moment he touched it, a shiver ran through his body. The sword vibrated softly, warm and alive. It was not dangerous, not yet, but it felt powerful. Then something strange happened. From every corner of the chamber, the other weapons moved. They floated slowly, turning to point in one direction. A soft, eerie sound filled the air, like 1,000 voices whispering at once. King. The sound was not loud, but it filled the room completely. Jaren stumbled back, staring at the weapons. They were pointing north, all aligned perfectly as if guiding him somewhere. Jaren could not believe what he saw. He was just a janitor. He had no title, no power, no skill to lead or fight. Yet somehow these weapons, ancient, legendary, forgotten by time, had recognized him. His heart raced. What did this mean? Was it a trick? A test? Or had he been chosen for something no human had ever been before? He looked around the chamber, the glow of the sword reflecting in his wide eyes. He felt small, very small, but at the same time he felt important. He did not understand why. He had never sought power, had never wished to lead anyone. Cleaning corridors and fixing broken pipes was enough for him. And yet, here he was, standing in a chamber full of weapons that seemed to obey him. Jaren took a deep breath. He knew he had to be careful. If anyone else found him here, they might try to take the sword. He could not let it fall into the wrong hands. He gently removed his hand from the hilt, and the sword floated a little higher, still glowing. The other weapons did not stop pointing north. Their whispers continued, soft and constant. King. He realized something. The weapons were guiding him. Not commanding him, not threatening him, they were pointing toward a direction, toward something important. He could not know what waited for him, but he felt a strange courage building inside him. Humans were small in the galaxy, often ignored, but perhaps smallness did not mean weakness. Perhaps humans could still matter in ways others could not imagine. Jaren straightened up and looked at the corridor leading north. The glow of the chamber behind him faded slightly, but the sword still pulsed as if breathing. The whispering stopped, leaving a calm silence. He picked up his mop again, not because he was cleaning, but because he needed to move forward. One step at a time, he followed the path the ancient weapons had chosen for him. In that moment, Jaren understood something important. Life could be ordinary for a human like him. But sometimes, the universe had plans far beyond imagination. Sometimes, the smallest person could touch the greatest power. And sometimes, cleaning floors could lead to discovering forgotten corridors, and finding a destiny no one had ever expected. Jaren walked toward the north, past dusty corridors and broken panels. The hum of the weapons guided him, steady and sure. He was scared, yes, but he was ready. Whatever awaited him, he would face it. He was just a janitor, but today the stars had chosen him for something greater. Jaren walked slowly through the dark corridors of the space station. The soft glow of the forbidden blade followed him in his mind. Every step he took felt heavier, as if the air itself was alive. He had never felt anything like this before. It was not fear exactly. It was something different: curiosity, wonder, and a strange sense of responsibility all mixed together. The corridor opened into a wider chamber. Rusted machinery lined the walls, and broken control panels were scattered on the floor. Dust swirled in the faint light, moving like tiny stars. In the center, the forbidden blade floated in midair, glowing softly. The other weapons from the chamber he had left behind were gone, but their memory lingered. He could almost hear their quiet whispers in his mind. King, King. Jaren stepped closer. He reached out his hand again, and the sword responded. It vibrated gently, almost as if it recognized him. The glow became warmer, bathing his face in soft blue light. He could feel energy running through his fingertips. It was not painful, not frightening, just alive. He pulled his hand back slightly and stared at it in awe. "Why me?" he whispered. His voice echoed softly in the empty chamber. "I'm just a janitor. I clean floors. I fix pipes. I don't deserve this." The blade pulsed once, then twice, and a soft hum filled the room. Jaren froze. The hum was not from the sword alone. It came from the walls, the floor, the air around him. And then he noticed it. Small, glowing lines were appearing on the walls. They moved like rivers of light, connecting the sword to the edges of the room. They formed patterns, symbols he did not recognize. He stepped closer, his heart pounding. The hum grew louder, resonating in his chest. He reached out again, and the sword floated down slightly, almost touching his hand. The moment their energies connected, a whisper spoke, not in his ears but in his mind. "You are chosen." Jaren staggered back. He had not expected words. Not like this. His mind felt heavy and light at the same time. "Chosen? For what?" he asked aloud, though he did not expect an answer. "You will lead," the whisper said, calm and certain. "Not by force. Not by fear. By guidance, by protection. By being human." Jaren shook his head. "Me? A human? I'm nothing. I clean floors. I'm small." "Your size does not matter," the voice interrupted gently. "Humans have been underestimated for centuries. Now the time has come for one to step forward." The sword glowed brighter, and the air around him shimmered. Jaren felt a warmth spread through his body. It was not heat, it was something deeper. Confidence, perhaps. Courage. A sense that he could do something important even if he did not know what yet. He took a step forward and touched the sword fully this time. Energy shot through him, not harmful but intense. His mind filled with images. Ancient battlefields, long-forgotten halls, weapons floating in formation, all pointing toward something distant. He saw stars, planets, and corridors of ancient stations, all waiting for the one chosen. Jaren fell to his knees. He could barely breathe. He had never imagined he could feel power like this. And yet, he also felt something else: responsibility. This was not a game. This was real. And somehow he knew that every step he took now mattered. He looked around. The sword floated higher, pulsing steadily. Its glow cast long shadows on the walls, shadows that looked almost like hands reaching out, welcoming him. And then he heard it again, soft and faint, like the whisper of 1,000 voices. "King, King." Jaren closed his eyes. He tried to calm his racing heart. He had always believed that humans were small, unimportant in the galaxy. But now he felt differently. He was small, yes, but small could be clever. Small could be brave. Small could be chosen. The hum faded slowly, leaving only a gentle vibration in the air. The sword remained before him, glowing, waiting. Jaren stood and looked at it with determination. He did not know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing. He had to follow the path the sword showed him. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The chamber around him seemed larger now, as if the walls themselves were watching. The sword floated beside him, not leading, not dragging, but guiding. Every step felt heavier than the last, yet also lighter, filled with purpose. Outside, in the corridors of the space station, the distant hum of ancient weapons echoed faintly. Somewhere north they waited. They had chosen him. Not because he was strong. Not because he was skilled. But because he was human, and that was enough. Jaren looked at the sword one more time. "I don't know if I can do this," he said softly. "You will," the voice answered. "Because you must. And because you can." And with that, Jaren began to move north, guided by the forbidden blade. The journey was only beginning, but he felt ready. Humans had always been small, always been underestimated. But today, a janitor had touched a forbidden blade, and something in the galaxy had changed forever. Jaren moved carefully through the station. The forbidden blade hovered beside him, glowing softly, casting shadows on the cold metal walls. He still could not believe what was happening. He was a janitor, a human, small and ordinary. And yet, somehow the sword had chosen him. The thought made his heart beat faster. As he walked, he heard a strange sound. It was soft at first, like a distant hum. Then it grew louder, filling the corridors. He stopped and looked around. The walls, the floors, even the ceiling seemed to vibrate. Tiny lights flickered along the panels, and then he saw it. Ancient weapons, floating in the air, slowly coming to life. They were beautiful and strange. Some looked like swords, long and curved, glowing with energy. Others were spheres, spinning and humming with power. A few looked like staffs, carved with unknown symbols. All of them pointed in the same direction, north, the way the sword had indicated. Jaren took a step back. What is this?" he whispered. The sword pulsed in response, and the whispers began again. "King, king." The voice was soft, gentle but certain. Jaren felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. The weapons were not attacking. They were not dangerous. They were honoring him, recognizing him, guiding him. He moved forward slowly, his hands slightly raised as if to show he meant no harm. The weapons parted slightly, creating a path for him. Jaren felt as if he were walking through a river of light. Every step he took, the weapons seemed to follow, floating in perfect formation, pointing the way. As he walked, a hologram flickered to life on the wall. A faded, blue image of an alien appeared. Its voice was soft but clear. "The one chosen by the blade is not like the others. This human, he is worthy." Jaren froze. He had never thought of himself as worthy. "Me?" he asked. "I'm just a janitor. I've never led anyone. I've never fought or ruled. I don't belong here." The hologram shook its head slowly. "Worthy does not mean strongest. Worthy does not mean largest. Worthy means capable of change. Capable of uniting. Capable of guiding. The blade has chosen wisely. Humans may be small, but they can carry what others cannot." Jaren swallowed hard. He had cleaned halls and fixed broken machines all his life, but leading? Guiding? Protecting civilizations? That was far beyond anything he had imagined. And yet, looking at the floating weapons, he felt a strange trust. They were not threatening him. They were waiting for him to act. He took a deep breath and continued. The path led him to a massive chamber, larger than any he had seen. The ceiling was high and arched, covered with panels of unknown metal. Every wall held ancient weapons, hundreds of them, glowing faintly. The energy in the room was strong, almost alive. The weapons lifted from their walls, floating gently toward him. They formed circles, lines, and patterns that Jaren did not understand. Yet somehow he felt a connection. He could sense the rhythm of their movement, the pulse of their energy. And again he heard the whisper, "King, king." He stopped in the center of the room. The sword floated before him, glowing brighter than ever. Jaren reached out his hand, and the energy of the sword spread through him. It was not dangerous. It was comforting, as if the universe itself had placed its trust in him. Suddenly, the largest weapon in the room, a massive staff carved with symbols he could not read, rose slowly. It hovered above him, then pointed toward the north exit. The other weapons followed, forming a clear path. Jaren realized they were guiding him, showing him where he needed to go next. He felt a mix of fear and excitement. He had no idea what awaited him outside this chamber. He did not know what the north held, only that the weapons wanted him to follow. And he also understood something else. They had chosen him not because he wanted power, not because he was strong, but because he was human. Humans were often overlooked in the galaxy. Small, fragile, and underestimated. But here now the universe had given him a chance to matter. He felt pride mixed with humility. He was ordinary, yes, but ordinary could be extraordinary when the right moment came. Jaren walked toward the northern exit. The weapons parted as he moved, floating beside him, forming lines and arcs, lighting the path. The energy of the chamber seemed to flow into him, filling him with courage. He did not understand everything, but he trusted the sword. He trusted the weapons. And slowly he began to trust himself. As he reached the exit, the chamber glowed one last time. The whispers faded, leaving only a soft hum in the air. Jaren stepped into the corridor beyond. The path ahead was long, and he knew challenges awaited. But he also knew one thing: he was not alone. The ancient weapons were with him, guiding him, recognizing him, and waiting for him to take the next step. Jaren looked at the sword, floating at his side, and smiled faintly. He was just a human janitor. But today he had discovered something incredible. He had touched a forbidden blade, awakened ancient weapons, and been chosen for a destiny far greater than he had ever imagined. With steady steps he moved forward, following the path the weapons had created. North was where they pointed, north was where he would go. And for the first time in his life, Jaren felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Jaren walked out of the chamber, the forbidden blade floating at his side. The corridor ahead seemed endless, dark and quiet, but he no longer felt afraid. The ancient weapons had guided him this far, and now they seemed to rest, their soft hum fading behind him. All that mattered was the direction they had pointed, north. He reached the docking bay of the space station, a massive hall filled with old ships and floating debris. Most ships were broken or abandoned, but in one corner, Jaren saw a small exploration craft that looked usable. Its hull was scratched, the engines old, but it still held a faint glow, like it had been waiting for someone. He smiled faintly. The universe always gave humans a chance, even small ones like him. Climbing into the pilot's seat, Jaren ran his hands over the controls. He had learned the basics from old manuals and from watching others work, but he had never piloted a ship this big alone. His heart raced, but he took a deep breath. If he could follow the weapons, if he could touch the forbidden blade, then he could handle this too. The engines whined to life, old but steady. Jaren guided the ship through the station's hangar, avoiding broken panels and floating debris. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, shining bright and cold. He adjusted the course north, following the invisible path the weapons had shown him. The first hours were quiet. Jaren watched the stars, trying to remember the hum of the ancient weapons. He thought about what the hologram had said, that humans were small but capable. That he had been chosen not because he was strong, but because he could guide and protect. He smiled faintly. Cleaning floors had never seemed so heroic. As he traveled, small challenges appeared. An asteroid field drifted into his path, jagged rocks spinning slowly in the vacuum. He guided the ship carefully, ducking and weaving between them. Each maneuver tested his skill, but he realized humans had one advantage: creativity. Where other pilots might panic, he improvised, dodging rocks with quick thinking. After hours of travel, a strange energy field appeared ahead. His sensors beeped wildly, warning him of interference. The ship's instruments flickered, and the glow of the forbidden blade pulsed in response. It was as if the sword was telling him, "Keep going, do not stop." Jaren adjusted the engines and pushed forward, trusting the blade. Inside the energy field, time seemed to slow. The stars outside stretched into streaks, and colors swirled in patterns he could not name. It was beautiful and confusing at the same time. He felt a thrill run through him. Humans were small, fragile, often overlooked, but here in this vast galaxy he could make a difference. Finally, after what felt like hours, the energy field ended. A planet appeared ahead, glowing faintly with blue and green light. It was beautiful, peaceful, and alive. Jaren realized this was the place the weapons had been pointing to, the northern planet. He felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. What awaited him there? He guided the ship down, through thin clouds and swirling winds. The planet's surface was strange, with tall mountains that shimmered and rivers that glowed faintly. The instruments on the ship detected no life at first, but the energy of the forbidden blade grew stronger as they approached. Jaren understood this was where the journey truly began. Landing was not easy. The terrain was rough and the engines groaned under the strain. But Jaren kept calm. Humans were clever, patient, and adaptable. With careful movements, he touched the ground, and the ship's engines powered down with a soft sigh. He stepped outside, feeling the strange atmosphere on his skin. The sword floated beside him, its glow bright against the alien sky. He looked around. There was no one here, no creatures, no machines, only the distant hum of energy. And then, faintly, he heard it again. King, king. The voice was soft, guiding him. Jaren realized the ancient weapons had not just pointed him north, they had prepared him for this moment. He began walking toward the glowing mountains, the sword leading the way. Each step felt lighter than the last, filled with purpose. He did not know what awaited him, but he understood one thing. He was no longer just a janitor. He was a human chosen for something greater. The universe had given him a chance to matter. As he walked, Jaren thought about the journey. He had crossed a forgotten station, touched a forbidden blade, awakened ancient weapons, and now traveled to a distant planet. Humans were small in the galaxy, yes, but they were capable of great things. And perhaps, he thought, the greatest strength of all was courage. The courage to step forward when no one expected him to. The mountains drew closer, glowing softly in the distance. The hum of the sword pulsed with every step he took. Jaren knew he was ready. The northern planet held secrets, challenges, and perhaps even the path to his destiny. And he would face it all, not as a janitor but as a human chosen to lead. Jaren looked at the sword. Its glow was steady and calm. "I'm ready," he whispered. "Show me the way." And with that, he continued toward the glowing mountains, ready to discover what it truly meant to be chosen by the Forbidden Blade. Jaren walked steadily toward the glowing mountains. The Forbidden Blade floated beside him, its soft blue light guiding every step. The hum of energy from the sword filled the air, and he could feel it resonating with the planet itself. The mountains shimmered in shades of green and blue, reflecting on the rivers that ran like veins across the land. Everything felt alive. As he climbed higher, Jaren noticed strange structures partially hidden in the mountains. They looked ancient, like towers built by civilizations long gone. Some had symbols carved into their walls, glowing faintly in patterns he could not understand. The sword pulsed as he approached them, as if signaling that he was on the right path. The closer he got, the louder he heard the whispers. Not from the sword this time, but from the air itself. "King, King." The voices were soft but clear, echoing off the mountains surrounding him. Jaren's heart raced. He had come so far, faced so many unknowns, yet he felt calm. Somehow, the universe had prepared him for this moment. At the top of the highest mountain, a massive chamber appeared. Its entrance was framed by two glowing pillars, carved with symbols similar to the ones he had seen in the station. The hum of energy was strong here, almost like a heartbeat. Jaren realized that this was the final place. The throne, the crown, the moment the ancient weapons had been guiding him toward. He stepped inside. The chamber was enormous, more than any building he had ever seen. Floating in the center were dozens of weapons, glowing and moving in perfect harmony. Swords, staffs, spears and shields hovered in formation, pointing toward a platform in the middle. And there it was, a throne, simple but majestic, carved from a single piece of shimmering crystal. Jaren approached slowly. The sword floated ahead of him, lighting the path. As he stepped onto the platform, the floating weapons began to rise and circle him, forming a protective and reverent pattern. The hum of energy became a melody, soft and powerful, filling every corner of the chamber. He stopped in front of the throne. For a moment nothing happened. Then slowly the throne's crystal surface shimmered and shifted. It extended slightly, like inviting him to sit. Jaren hesitated. He had never imagined such a moment. He was just a janitor, a human, small and ordinary. How could he sit on a throne meant for a king? But the sword pulsed again, warm and steady. The hum of the weapons surrounded him, gentle but firm. The voices whispered clearly this time, "You are chosen. You are worthy. You are king." Jaren took a deep breath. He stepped forward and sat on the throne. The crystal surface was warm, comforting, and alive. As soon as he did, the floating weapons moved closer, forming a glowing circle around him. Light spread from the throne, flowing into the weapons, the mountains, and the sky above. The planet itself seemed to respond, brightening, shimmering, as if acknowledging its new guardian. He felt something incredible. The energy of the Forbidden Blade and the weapons flowed through him, not taking control but connecting with his mind and heart. He understood the truth. Being king was not about power or conquest. It was about guidance, protection, and responsibility. The universe had chosen him not because he was strong, but because he could lead with care, courage, and wisdom. Jaren smiled. He thought of the dusty corridors he had cleaned, the broken panels he had fixed, the small steps he had taken every day as a janitor. All of that had prepared him for this. Being small and humble had not been a weakness. It had been his strength. Humans were underestimated, yes, but today one human had been chosen to matter more than anyone could have imagined. The glowing weapons shifted, pointing outward, signaling that they were ready to follow his guidance. The throne pulsed with light, and the Forbidden Blade floated gently above his lap, steady and calm. Jaren felt the weight of responsibility, but it was not frightening. It was inspiring. He looked around the chamber at the shimmering mountains, the glowing rivers, and the floating weapons. A thought came to him, simple but powerful. Humans could be small, but they could make a difference. They could rise, not through violence, but through courage, wisdom, and heart. And he would be that example, showing the galaxy that even the smallest beings could carry the greatest responsibilities. Jaren took a deep breath. He was no longer just a janitor. He was no longer just a human among countless alien species. He was king, chosen by the Forbidden Blade, honored by the ancient weapons, and ready to guide the galaxy in a way no one had expected. The hum of energy filled the chamber one last time, soft and steady. The sword glowed warmly. The voices whispered together, clear and gentle, King? 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 Jaren smiled, feeling calm and strong. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy, but he was ready. The throne was not for ruling with fear, but for leading with heart. And for the first time in his life he truly felt like he belonged not just on this planet but in the vast, endless galaxy. And so, a human janitor had touched a forbidden blade, and the stars had chosen him to be king.